Hi friends, it's Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and I'm back with another weekly vlog, just showing you what we've been up to here around the homestead. Our week began celebrating Father's Day with Adam. Adam is a wonderful father to our children, and we are so grateful for him. I know a lot of people ask why Adam isn't featured in many of our videos, and that's because he works full-time off of the homestead. And so I often get asked, why do we do so much work that doesn't include Adam? And that's because we have two options as a family with a husband that works away from home on Monday through Friday. We can either do the work while he is at work, earning the income that will fund our family and our lifestyle. And then the times when he's home, we can spend being a family and being together. The other option would be for the kids and I to enjoy our time and kind of play while Adam is away at work, and then he would have to pick up the slack on the weekend, and we wouldn't get that time together as a family. So our family has chosen to do a lot of the homestead work while Adam is away at work earning an income, and this is just what works for our family. And then we really value our weekend and our evening time when Adam is home. That's a time where we can all be together, making family memories and just enjoying this homestead that we get to live on. So very grateful for Adam. He is definitely the fun parent out of us too. And he's the one that brings the joy and the playfulness to our children. And I am extremely grateful for him for that. Now, for the work that we did this week while Adam was away at work, let's start out in the garden. First, I wanted to update you on how our lettuce is doing. You guys know we had extremely high temperatures over the last couple of weeks, and so I harvested a lot of my lettuce early. And you can see that where I harvested it, it's already starting to grow back. I was harvesting it to prevent bolting in the heat and just kind of hoping that it would regrow, and thankfully that is happening. So here's some that I harvested this week, and you can see that I just cut it and leave some of the outer edges here. And then it will continue to grow, and I should get 2 to 3 harvests out of each of these lettuce plants. And then here are the radish pods I've been mentioning. These are the seed pods of the radish plant. After it flowers, these pods will form, and they taste almost like a spicy, radishy pea pod or a green bean. They are delicious, and these are one of the reasons I wanted my radish plants to bolt. I enjoy snacking on these raw. You can also pickle them, and they are delicious. So looking forward to having a full bed of those to snack on and eat. The rest of the garden is looking lovely. Everything's starting to fill in and become lush. In the next couple weeks, we'll be harvesting tomatoes and green beans, cucumbers, just so much beginning to grow here. But as for this week, it's just mostly greens. You can see about every other day I'm harvesting a full basket of greens. We've got kale, Swiss chard, lettuce, so much yumminess. We're going to make a breakfast out of this today. First, I need the kids to give me some eggs. We'll also include those, and it'll be a farm fresh breakfast of greens and eggs. We have a broody hen here. When they're broody, you can see they try to attack you when you move them. They really want to sit on those eggs and incubate them. And the children were kind of scared to move her, so I had to go in and get her out of the way so that their little hands didn't get pecked. Elizabeth here wanted to show how big the guineas are getting. These are our teenage guinea hens, and they are getting nice and big. I love their pretty feathers, and they will be added to the rest of the flock probably in another couple months. They still need to grow a little more. Collecting eggs is quite an adventure when you have ducks. It's kind of like an egg hunt that the children get to go on every day, because the ducks do not like to lay their eggs in nesting boxes. They tend to just lay them all over in the chicken runs. So the kids go around and find the eggs and put them in their bucket, and it's like a fun little egg hunt every single day. Now, once we got our eggs and our greens, we're back inside, and I'm taking some bacon grease, and I am just scooping it out into my pan, and this is what we're going to fry up some potatoes in. These are not homegrown potatoes. I'm still waiting on my potatoes to finish growing, but these are some bulked potatoes that I had bought from Azure Standard. They're starting to sprout a little bit, so I need to work hard to use these up. And then anything that we don't use up before the sprouting gets too bad, we will can up to preserve for another time. Fried potatoes are a favorite treat here for breakfast. I just put them in bacon grease with some salt and pepper and probably some bay seasoning or something like that. I've also got a pan with more bacon grease in it to work on cooking down our greens. So today I'm just going to saute this Swiss chard that I just harvested from the garden, as well as this kale. And we're just going to chop this up into little pieces and get that sauteed on the oven. The children are not a huge fan of greens for breakfast, but I tell them this is like your vitamin. You want to eat these fresh greens. There's tons of good nutrients in there, calcium and things that are important when you're a dairy-free family, so they have to eat them. The final thing that we're having with our fresh homegrown breakfast is some eggs. For a typical breakfast, I will crack anywhere between 18 to 24 eggs, and the kids will eat that up. There are 8 of us eating eggs, so if I do 24 eggs, that's about 3 eggs per person, which can easily be eaten in this house with teenagers and growing active children. So I've got my helper there, and we've cracked them. There you can see all of our eggs. I'm using up a lot of duck eggs today. If you've never had a duck egg, it's very similar to a chicken egg, just a richer white to the egg, slightly different taste. They're ideal for baking, but we also enjoy them scrambled. And our ducks at this time of the year are great layers. We have Pekin and Rouen ducks, and they're a dual-purpose duck that can be harvested for meat and also be egg layers. And they'll lay this time of year almost an egg a day. So we have to use these eggs up. We can get anywhere between 2 to 3 dozen eggs a day collected on our property. So if we don't use them, they will start overflowing in our fridge very quickly. So I pulled the potatoes out of my cast iron pan when they were done, and then I added my eggs there, and we're just going to scramble these up. I will salt and pepper them, and that will be what we're having with the rest of our breakfast. So here we go, just a quick homegrown breakfast to fuel the kids and get ready for our day. It's very satisfying that we're reaching that time of the year where we are harvesting some veggies to enjoy with our breakfast. Something else exciting that happened this week is that little Benji, our youngest, turned 2 years old. I can't believe it's been 2 years already. He is our summer solstice baby that was born on the summer solstice, which was also Father's Day of 2020 when he was born. So we just love him so much and had fun celebrating him on his birthday this week. 2 to 3 years old is probably one of my favorite ages. I obviously love all of the stages of development of my children and see the good sides of them all. But 2 to 3 is just really special. There's so much development, so much realization about the world around them, and learning to speak clearly and learning to potty train and learning how to behave and control impulses and all of that. Just really looking forward to the next year with Benji, and also watching him become a big brother to his newest sibling that will come later on this year. That is also a really fun time, is watching my 2-year-olds become big siblings. We really enjoy that. So Benji is a joy in our lives, and it was so fun celebrating him this week. Lots of other exciting things happening around the homestead. Our first batch of Cornish cross meat birds that you guys have been along for the journey of raising them, they are just about ready for processing. They will be 8 weeks old next week, and we have set July 2nd as our tentative processing date for them. Looking forward to getting all of that homegrown chicken in the freezer. It's definitely not a fun chore processing meat birds, but it is very satisfying when the work is done to know that you've raised this ethically raised, healthy meat for your family. So just in time to finish up the first batch, our second batch of meat birds came this week. The second batch is Freedom Rangers. These are a different breed of meat birds, and we intentionally did the 2 different types of birds this year because we are doing a cost analysis, a detailed one, just to see which type of bird makes better sense for our family to raise every year. And so we did equal amounts of each, and then we'll see in the end. I will share those numbers with you and let you know which bird cost more to grow out and which type of bird also produced more meat per amount of money. And I think that will be a neat little experiment for us. Freedom Rangers take a little longer to process, so these guys probably won't be ready to harvest until later on toward the end of the summer. Another fun project this week, the wild roses are blooming back in our kind of wild area of our property. We call it the junk woods. It's just a bunch of wild weeds and plants that grow. And I like wild roses because they are great for soap making. They have a great scent and they're also really good for the skin. And I am allergic to poison ivy, so I can't go back here and brave the jungle in order to harvest these. Thankfully, my son, Gabriel, doesn't seem to react to poison ivy. He's come in contact with it many times and never gotten a rash, so he offered to go back and pull off the petals for me. So this is what we were looking for. These are my wild rose petals. We're going to get them inside. I'm going to put them on a cookie tray here and stick them out in the sun and let them dehydrate for a while. And then once they dried here, I can get them in some olive oil. We're going to let that oil infuse with the rose petals, and then that will be used for soap making. And I will definitely take you along on that process of making our homemade soap later on this year. We typically do that in the fall once things slow down a little bit. Another day, another tiny harvest. It's just the beginning of harvest season, so we're not getting abundant baskets full of produce right now. Right now things are just starting to pick up, and we're grateful for every little basket of food that we get. Something that we do have an abundance of, though, is mint, and I need to do something with all the mint growing in our garden, and today was a good opportunity to do so. We have several types of mint growing. We have a chocolate mint and a pineapple mint, and we also have lemon balm. So I harvested a little bit of each today, and those are going to be used mostly for tea. We have some basil. These were just prunings that I took off my plant. We found a few garlic scapes that we had missed last week, a little bit more kale that we need to use up before the cabbage moths destroy it. I'm racing to get to it before they do. Our first little bit of green beans. Pretty soon we're going to have baskets of green beans, but this was just the first couple plants that started to grow, and I harvested those. And then we have a few peppers, one green pepper, a couple banana peppers. We're going to put those on some pizzas for dinner this week. But first, I want to show you my tea. I have some freeze-dried orange slices here. I have some of our homegrown raw honey, and I think I'm going to use some chocolate mint to make a kind of orange mint sun tea today. So the first thing I'm going to do is just scoop out, a couple tablespoons of honey here. I'm going to add some of those freeze-dried oranges. Those will just give a little bit of citrus flavor to our tea. You could also use lemons if you wanted to. And then here I'm just grabbing whole stems of the mint. I'm not even going to chop this up. Just gave it a good rinse under the sink. And then we're going to push that down into our jar here. Topped it off with more water, and I'm going to stir it around, and then we are just going to set this outside and let the sun make our tea for us today. I also have my sun oven out again. This week was also temperatures up in the 90s, so trying to keep the house cool and use the sun oven as much as possible. The next thing we need to do with our mint here, I have little Levi. He volunteered to help. He is just pulling leaves off of the stems, and we are filling our freeze dryer trays with as much mint as possible. We're going to go ahead and freeze dry the mint to turn it into tea. And that is what we will use for our morning tea through most of the year. So we'll get those trays in the freeze dryer and going, and it'll only take about maybe 6 or 7 hours for that to be done. I will show you in a little bit what that looks like. But first, I'm going to get some brownie batter made up. Here is my brownie recipe. We're going to make some brownies and let those bake in the sun oven. I always add some chocolate chips to this recipe just to give some extra chocolatey flavor, but it's just a really simple, delicious brownie. With these temperatures, didn't take much time at all to get the oven up to 350. Putting our brownies in there, and we're going to let the sun bake these. Once again, you can find a link to the sun oven that we have in the description. In the meantime, our tea has finished infusing in the sun, and I'm just straining everything out and getting that into a pitcher, and then I will get that in the fridge so it can cool down in time to have with our brownies here when they're done. Didn't take much time at all, about 30 minutes, and the sun baked these for us, and they are smelling delicious. The kids will really enjoy this treat. So there we go. This is how our orange mint tea turned out. And the little boys, and well, I guess the big boys too, all of the boys and I, the girls are at gymnastics, so I'm going to have some sun tea and some sun-baked brownies with my 5 sons. Enjoy this little time with my guys. Once again, trying to use the heat outside to do as much of our cooking as we can this week because we do not have central air in our house, and it's a great way to keep the house cool. If I can use the stove and the oven indoors as little as possible, that really helps us out and helps us stay comfortable. Okay, it's the end of the day, and that mint that we threw in the freeze dryer is done, and it is perfect here. These freeze-dried herbs do retain a lot more of their flavor and also color versus other methods. So we got about a quart of mint here, and we're going to add that to the pantry shelf here. And we're slowly but surely filling the shelves back up from everything we depleted over the winter. All right, let's work on some of that garlic scape pesto that I mentioned last week. This is another way I was going to preserve some of my scapes. So into my food processor, I'm adding equal parts of scapes and basil. I don't really measure here. You can just kind of see the amounts. I'm adding some lemon juice to it. You really can't go wrong. And then I'm going to add some cashews here. Once again, not measuring, just kind of eyeballing it. Add a little bit of salt, and we're going to puree this all together and end up with a delicious basil garlic pesto. I freeze my pesto in these half-pint jars, and then that's perfect when I want to make a lasagna. I'll pull out one of these half pints and thaw it, and it makes a great dairy-free substitute for ricotta cheese in my lasagna. I'll just spread a layer of that pesto over my noodles, and it just adds a lot of great flavor. So dairy-free hack there, something that tastes really good, a great way to use up your garlic scapes. It's evening now. The kids are playing outside. One of the great things about being a large family and having so many children so close in ages is that there's never a shortage of playmates. If somebody wants to play a game of baseball or somebody wants to play a game of basketball, there's always at least 1 or 2 kids that are down for joining them. So often, many summer evenings, this is what you'll find in our side yard, are the children playing together. And as a mother, nothing warms my heart more than seeing my children getting along in this way and making these memories together. It's a huge blessing to me. One of the hazards of playing ball on a farm is that sometimes the baseball ends up in the cow pasture, and the kids are always just grateful when it doesn't end up in a big cow patty. But one of the hazards of baseball on a farm, I guess. So lots of fun playing. One of the unfortunate things right now is that my youngest, Benjamin, who just turned 2, can't often be included in some of these games. And so Mama has to spend a little special time with him. And on this evening, we're just taking a walk around the property, just kind of assessing things that may be done on the next day and just enjoying the sun as it's setting. So I hope everyone had a great week, and we look forward to sharing more with you next week. In the meantime, I hope you and your family are blessed. We'll see you later, friends. Bye.